I'm Marcela Safra. I'm a fractional marketer for nonprofits. I've been doing marketing for nonprofits for 10 years, and today I want to walk you through how to build your big picture communications plan. This plan will help you stay consistent and integrate all your communications in one place. Come on, let's do it together. Okay, so we're going to build a big picture communications plan for fundraising success, but also for brand consistency. Like I said, here are some key takeaways for today. We're gonna create a big picture communications plan. We're gonna identify key milestones and events, and we'll build a storytelling strategy. So let's dig in. Okay, so I know sometimes we struggle and we are putting a campaign last minute. 2 weeks before Giving Tuesday, we're scrambling to have that campaign ready, which is why this big picture communications plan is so important. Why is this important? Because it helps you be consistent with your communications. And consistency builds brand trust and reputation. It helps everyone internally page. And also, it's a quick way to plan the year ahead. It helps us ensure when are you warming up your audiences before a big campaign or a big ask. And it's guaranteeing you're generating value and delivering value. I'm gonna give you the template and it's gonna be in the notes of this video, but let's jump to a real life example. So, nonprofit one. Before doing the big picture communications plan, there was no communications plan or fundraising plan whatsoever. No consistency in their communications. There was sporadic communications with their audiences. But after we did the communications plan, they were organized. They warm up the audiences, and they were had an ability to plan ahead and be consistent. So don't get scared. This can be too much, but this is a big picture communications plan for a whole year for this nonprofit one. I'm gonna zoom in into the last 2 quarters, and here we have a little bit about the template is like we're gonna draft out our events out of our control, events in our control, call to actions, story arcs, and core topics. So as you can see here, what we did is that we kind of grew our email list before we did a fundraising campaign. So if you see the CTA, join a community of naturalists, give now for November, December. Let's jump to nonprofit 2. Before, they had really strong monthly themes, but there was no internal collaboration. There was scattered communications with the audiences. After we did the big picture communication plan, there was aligned internal teams, centralized communications, and the ability to plan ahead. So this one looks a little bit different because their fiscal year started in September. But as you can see, they had a lot of events in their control. So there was a lot of communications going out. So if we focus on the first 2 quarters on the events, they were able to find a way to all collaborate to send one communications about everything. Okay. Step 1. So if you go to the show notes and see the template first, we're going to start with the events out of your control. So events out of your control is looking at your organizational calendar. This one's easy. I start from the bottom to the top because this one is the easiest one, which is like social media holidays, seasonal events, regular events out of your control that have an important effect on your communications. It should make sense with your brand and your mission. Here are some examples of some social media holidays, but you can find more in Metricool. There's another events that are relevant for your nonprofit. For example, Thanksgiving, Giving Tuesday. If you're a women's serving organization, the International Women's Day, Volunteer Week, the last day of the school year, maybe because you work with schools, you need to know where that is finishing, and winter break. Look at events that also affect the people you serve, the events that affect your volunteers and your donors. So I'm gonna build one for a client. I'm going to build 3 months, May, June, and July. So let's see how that looks. So for this organization, which is an immigrant service Immigrant Services Organization, Mother's Day is important and mental health awareness is important. In June, the last day of the school year, because they're moms. And then here in Calgary, we have the Calgary Stampede. That's important for them because they're going to be participating in it. Now we're going to talk about events in your control. So these ones are events that your organization hosts, including from annual fundraisers to workshops, conferences, member meetings, AGM, major performances. Think about events you can sponsor, event you host, you don't host, but you participate in. Big events that happen and what milestones are reached every year in your organization. And what campaigns you will be running. While we're doing this, where we are brainstorming this with your team, think about when is a good time to grow your email list. When is it? I will say 2 to 3 months before a campaign. And in the springtime, if you're using meta ads, is the best time to grow your audience. What is their journey? How will they welcome them to your mission? What are the opportunities you will give you? Then we're gonna warm up your audiences, right? How you want to warm them up? What's the journey they're gonna come in? What are the call to actions and how they're gonna be ready for that big ask you're planning to do? For example, for my example here, we'll have a childcare that openings in May. We have an awareness campaign going from May to July, and we have a Stampede one-on-one for immigrants in June, and we have a participation on the Stampede parade. So there are events in our control. Of course, I didn't add everything about this organization. I just added like the few kind of relevant ones. Now we're going to talk about the primary call to actions. Let's brainstorm a little bit on this one. So, identify your primary call to actions. What are the main things you're going to ask people to do over the course of 1 year? Of course, like a little tip, don't use words like help or support. Here are some donations call to actions like give 25 today, show your support by giving now, your gift makes a difference. There are different call to actions for donations, and then I have different call to actions for volunteering. Volunteer today, sign up now, take action, be the change, or other CDAs like add my name to the list, advocate for a cause, find an event near you. And a quick tip I just learned that using first person call to actions have a higher click through rate. So, for example, add my name to a list, it will be one. I'm going to be the change. It can be another one. If we go back to donations, it could be I'm going to I will plant a tree. So things that are like that on first person have greater click-through rate. For our, I didn't write the call to actions, but we're going to kind of hit that register for your child. Or May we did that. And then volunteer for the parade. And then donate, share, or join. Because it's an awareness and fundraising campaign, we're trying to kind of reach and spread, expand the brand awareness at the same time we are asking for donations. Okay, story arcs. This one can get a little bit trickier, so let's try to do this really slowly. We're going to identify major story arcs within your organizations. What are the things to consider? So, what are the major stories that play out every year as you deliver your programs and services? These stories are often tied to events and call to actions that have you on your calendar. So, for example, if you have, I'm going to talk about how I'm tying up all the story arc for my fundraising campaign or my awareness campaign, but you need to kind of think of this as a Netflix show. So what happens in last week's episode will influence what happens in the next one. And then there's one main story, and then there's mini stories that go through episode through episode, right? So imagine creating a story arc over a series of weeks and months that kept your audiences hooked. What if they just had to open that next email? They just had to read that next social media post because they're hooked. So we're kind of trying to find that. Also, like after every story, we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So, some examples: you could do the chronicle the life of a new client or a volunteer, or ask as they work through your programs, or even a staff. Or what's the renovation of a community center, or how a green building is designed and constructed, or how this program transformed a life. So I want you to write the story off, and then I'm going to give you my example. The story of immigrant youth in a leadership program. So that's what we're going to talk about in this campaign. So my story arc is the story of youth in a leadership program. It's a 16-week program. The beginning is they enrolled in the program and the mentorship and coaching. The middle is that they select the theme they want to advocate and develop a project on. That's May, June. And then in the end is their project is showcased at the public library, and they shared how this project changed their lives. So when I look into my big picture communications plan, this is how it started building out. So my events of a control, like I have to make taking like keep in mind that I'm kind of talking about Mother's Day, talking about mental health awareness month. I also have an awareness and fundraising campaign going on, which is going to tell these stories. At the same time, in my communications, I am pushing to register kids to a childcare center and talking to volunteers to volunteer for the parade. So everything is integrated, but this helps you see the entire picture of what's going on, which is what I love this framework. By the way, I just have to say, this framework was developed by Kivi Leroux at the Nonprofit Marketing Guide. I learned this when I did the mentorship and certification program as a director of marketing and communications for nonprofits, and she helped me kind of build this framework, and it's amazing. We're gonna talk about core topics. You can add core topics month by month or not, like nonprofit too, like the example I shared, but you don't have to. You just can have a list of core topics you're gonna talk about. Let's see. So the topics are these core topics are: what should your nonprofit talk about? Like what do you want to be known for? So how to identify them? Like just sit with your team and brainstorm the top 10 topics you want to be known for. Categorize those like a garden. For example, the evergreen are the things that you put in the frequently asked questions, things that don't change very much. The perennial are the topics that happen every year. So that program launches here, right? That is a really the annual are trendy topics that make sense with your brand. So it's something happening in your sector or in your environment that you want to talk about, then that's an annual kind of topic. And then it has to be make sense with your brand. This is how I map it out for this organization. So we have holistic support for immigrant women and their families. This is part of their key messages because we're kind of opening a childcare center. We'll walk alongside the immigration journey, volunteering for the parade, the Stampede 101 for immigrants, the youth in the leadership program. We're walking with them. And immigrant youth empowerment. So this is like all the programs that help that are for youth. So I hope you can see how everything comes together. But to recap what we did today, we identified events, we identified opportunities for communications, we identified their main call to actions, the story arcs, and the core topics we want to be known for. But now what? We built this, now what? So this is something you have to review quarterly to make sure it's still relevant. This is the document that will drive your comms and support your brand consistency. It can change if things change. I encourage you to just don't, it's not set in stone. It will encourage a lot of collaboration internally within different departments. Use it, keep it up to date, share it with the key people inside your org. This eventually will fit your editorial calendar, which I will make another video about that, and will take you from being reactive to being proactive. And I want to finish with a really good quote from Kiwi. If you want people to grow to love you, you need to provide communications, something to grab onto and follow. Sketching out your big picture communications plan gets everyone in your organization on the same page so that the story that people outside your org hear and see is consistent and makes sense over time. This is from the book Content Marketing for Nonprofits. I highly recommend that book from Kivi Leruxmillian. Again, let's connect on LinkedIn. Here's my email. I'm going to leave all the links for the template and everything in the notes. And yeah, if you want to connect and if you want me to review your big picture communications plan, please send me an email or send me a DM on LinkedIn.